Good afternoon. It's good to be here at the Roebuck Church of Christ, Roebuck Parkway Church of Christ. It's an honor to be here at your evening worship service. Thank you for allowing me to come. And I came from Winston County this afternoon, so I was with the 9th Avenue Church of Christ in Haleyville, Alabama, just this morning. So we're traveling around to different places. But as Jason mentioned, my wife Allison and my son Cole, my three-year-old son Cole, are here as well, and they're in the kids class at this time. So hopefully after services you can meet them as well and speak to them for just a moment. Last year when I came, they weren't able to be here with me when I came to Roebuck Parkway. And so some of you may not know them, but I encourage you to meet them this evening after services if you have the time. I'm here tonight to talk about our work in Cusco, Peru. And I want to begin by saying thank you, expressing my gratitude and just our thankfulness for your decision back in 2009 and your dedication since then to work in Cusco, Peru. I think I've said here a couple of times that I see this as a partnership. We are co-workers. We're working together to work in Cusco, Peru. And so we're all involved in this work. The eldership here and the missions committee decided several years ago that it would be good to work in Cusco, Peru. There's something about Cusco, that part of the world, that needs the gospel. And so you decided to begin working there. I'm a little more invested than you are, but in the end, we're all co-workers. And so thank you for giving me the honor to live there and to work in a deeper way than you're working now. But thank you. Thank you for your decision and your dedication. This has been a great congregation to work with. You've always been very committed, always allowed me to come back here and to speak. And so thank you so much for your decision and dedication to work there. I want to tonight talk about the progress of the mission. And the mission in Cusco, Peru is this, and it's pretty simple, but it's a good mission. The mission in Cusco, Peru is just to establish and to mature a congregation of the Lord's church in that city. And so that's basically what we're trying to do. There is a lot of things I could talk about and report on, a lot of ways that we've worked in the community, a lot of service projects that we've done, a lot of ways that we've helped outside of the community in poverty-stricken areas surrounding Cusco. So there's a lot of things I could mention, but basically what I'm going to talk about is just what pertains to that goal, and that is planning and establishing and maturing this congregation in the Lord's church. And so I wanted to start out with that. One of the major developments in 2011 was that a lot of the new members, and I should mention, we've been there 2.5 years, but we started the church 1.5 years ago. So it's only had 1.5 years, and it's a very, very new church, which is exciting and challenging at the same time. But one of the neat things in 2011 is that a lot of the members have begun to share their Christianity with their friends and family. And so we're seeing exponential growth now because we've established a base with new Christians, and they found something in Cusco that they're so excited about that they need and they must tell their friends and family. And so we're beginning to see more people coming through friendship evangelism, which we did not see at the beginning of the church, obviously because we didn't have any members of the church besides the 6 missionaries. I want to give some examples of that. One example is a man named Jorge. Jorge came to our inauguration service, which was October 24th, 2010. Jason was at that worship service, and so he was able to see that. We had a big crowd. 215 people came to that service. A lot of visitors came to that service. And we had them hand in their information, and we collected that information. And then the following day, the Monday following that inauguration service, the 3 missionaries sat down, Gary, Matt, and myself, and we started divvying up the contacts and those who wanted Bible studies or a minister to call them. And so we got to Jorge's card, and he wanted somebody to call him. And I said, I don't know who he is, but I'll give him a call. And so I called Jorge, and we set up a meeting the next day. Jorge came to the building, and I remember it very distinctly. He came to the building, and the building was still shut down, but he came in, and we sat down and talked a little bit. And I remember how surprised he was that I was waiting for him in the building. I think he thought I was the minister's kid or something. He had never seen what he called a pastor who looked like an 18-year-old. But I assured him that I was not a pastor, but I was someone he could talk to. And so we talked, and we had a great meeting. And afterwards, Jorge just took off in his path or his walk to discover a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, through baptism, and then he became a member of the church. And after that, Jorge's son became a member of the church. And after that, Jorge's wife started attending our services, or I should say, started attending our midweek Bible study. We're still working on her and to see if she can attend the services. But it wasn't too long before Jorge invited Irvin. Irvin's pictured here as well with Jorge. Irvin was a good friend of Jorge's, and they have this friendship through an organization in the city. And so Jorge invited Irvin to church. And Irvin was a young guy, but we hit it off pretty quickly, and I invited him to our midweek Bible study because in my home, because Jorge was already going to that Bible study. And so it wasn't too long before Irvin made a decision. We were having a membership class. It was kind of a new members class, but also regular visitors come to that class. And Irvin learned about spiritual salvation and baptism and what he needs to do to be saved through that class on a Sunday afternoon. Immediately following the class, he said, "Does the baptistry have water in it?" We said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I want to be baptized." So Irvin was baptized. And then one day, Irvin invited Miguel to services. Jorge invited Irvin invited Miguel. And Miguel came to our big day. I'm going to talk more about our big day later. But came to our big day. We had a lot of contacts, but we were able to sit down and talk to Miguel. And later on, Gary, my teammate, set up a Bible study with him. And it wasn't too long before Miguel became a member of the church. And so 3 guys came to Christ through friendship evangelism. And then I was teaching our School of the Bible class, which is a basic theology course that we advertise in the community. So we just have people come in off the street. And it's always interesting to take a break and to talk to the students and figure out how they came to know about this class. And I was talking to the class during a break, and I asked one guy, he was a young guy, I said, "How did you come to know about this class? Was it through the newspaper or the radio or the sign out front?" And he said, "No, one of your new members invited me." And it was Miguel, the guy who just got baptized. And the young guy in my School of the Bible class, his name was Miguel as well. And so what we saw was Jorge invited Irvin invited the older Miguel, and the older Miguel invited the younger Miguel. And the kid that was in my School of the Bible class, he's been attending our midweek Bible study and the worship services now. And so hopefully, he already knows about baptism and what the Bible teaches about salvation. Hopefully, he'll come to a decision pretty soon. So it's exciting. These individuals, these men, are excited about what they found in Cusco, Peru. And they're going around telling everybody else about it. And it's creating quite a stir. And all 4 men right now are talking to their friends and their family about this church. And they're so excited. There's a lot of enthusiasm now in Cusco, Peru, as a result of friendship evangelism, a new development in 2011. Right now, I want to talk. I want to mention as many things as possible, but I don't want to. I can't talk in depth about each thing. And so we're going to survey some of the bigger events in 2011. Some of the things that we were able to participate in. And the first thing I want to talk about is the School of the Bible. We decided it would be great to offer a basic theology course to the community and plug it as that, because many of us have degrees, Bible degrees, and we could put that in the advertisement, and we could teach them the Bible. And we could talk to them about basic theology and give a certificate after the course. And so we developed a 3-week course. And it's just one class a week. The class lasts for an hour and a half. And so each week they have an hour and a half class. The first class is on the authority of the Bible. The second one is on the church. And the third one is on spiritual salvation. And we've had a lot of people go through this course. And it's been pretty exciting to see the amount of interest in this course. I know just last month in this 3-week course, we had 15 students complete the course. And that's exciting. 15 students learned about authority of the Bible, the church, and spiritual salvation. And we've had baptisms as a result of this course as well. Also, I want to mention fellowship. A new church one thing you don't want to miss out on is fellowship. And I'm not talking about just fellowship meals, casseroles and stuff like that. I want to mention all kinds of fellowship, because fellowship is fun, and it's also important. It's an important element to a new congregation. And so we recently had a picnic. We went out and grilled out outside the city, and we just drove out the way they do it. They get in a bus and just drive out in the middle of nowhere and say, this spot looks good, and get off the bus and just set up. And that's what we did, and the Peruvians planned everything. The meal, they planned all the games. We were jumping rope and having sack races and doing all kinds of things I hadn't done in years. But they planned it all, and we had a great day. Every once in a while, every 3 months or so, we get together and we go out to eat, or we go see, or we have a movie or something like that. Just something fun. And to show that Christians are a family. We get together and we participate in things together, and we share in each other's lives. That's an important thing to do. I said I was going to mention the big days. We decided to start this in 2012, so this is a recent evangelistic tool we're using. And we decided, in the Bible, what they did a lot of times is they had big days. And the best example of this is the day of Pentecost. Thousands of people came, and they listened to a lesson. And they were convicted by that lesson, and they became members of the church. We see that, a great example in Acts chapter 2. And so we said, we have a lot of people come to know Christ through our worship services. They come in off the street. We've tried other things, but the most evangelistic tool is our worship services. People request information. We set up Bible studies after the worship service. So what if we could really promote just one day, one big day? It's much like a friends and family day or a gospel meeting. What if we could do that just one time instead of trying to do it every Sunday? Just really focus our efforts on one time. And so we did this. We started it February 5th. The Sunday before, we had an evangelistic sermon and challenged all the members to invite 3 friends. And then the week before, we had a lot of promotion in the city. You saw a billboard earlier advertising a series of lessons we were going to start on that day. Allison designed that. She's a great graphic designer. So she designed that, as well as flyers, posters, radio advertisements, TV, and also newspaper advertisements. We did it all. We passed out 4,000 flyers during that week. And our goal was 100 people. We were averaging 60 in our worship services. And so our goal was 100 people. That day we had 115. So we broke our goal, and we set a new average worship attendance record for that month as well. Also, the seminars. This is a discipleship tool we're using. Fellowship and evangelism is important, but what is of equal importance is discipleship. A lot of times we forget this on the mission field. And so we decided it would be great if we could set moments in the growth or in the life of growth of an individual, a new Christian. We could set benchmarks and say, this is a goal for you to make it to this seminar and then go on to the next one. And so there's 3 seminars. Each seminar is about 2.5, 3 hours. We feed them lunch after a Sunday worship service, and then we have the seminar. And it's just a Bible study, really, but it's a focused Bible study on one topic. The first one is on membership. We talk about what it means to be a member. The second one is on discipleship and spiritual growth. And the third one is on ministry. And so we teach them everyone needs to be a minister. And it's been great. So far, of our new converts, 13 have finished all 3 seminars, which is great. They're growing spiritually. One of the unique things about foreign mission works is that we get to have campaigns. And so for a whole week, people sacrifice their time and money and time with family and work, and they come down for a week, and we just get to do something great in the city for a whole week. And I know Roebuck is very evangelistic and have worked in Belize and several other places for years. And so you understand how great a campaign can be, how exciting it can be as well. We've had 3 recently. In June and July, we had a campaign where we used the Bible, taught the Bible, but we taught English. So it's a lot like Let's Start Talking or something like that. Dr. Mark Blackwelder at Freedom University organized this for us, and he sent down 8 students from FHU, and they came down and stayed for 5 weeks, and we had 40 students every day learn the Bible. We had a baptism afterwards, and still we're in contact with these students, 40 students. A lot of them came and helped translate for our clinic, medical clinic, that we had just a month ago or so. And then we had in October, we decided it would be great if we could do something like a clinic, but something different and attract a different age group, a different crowd. What if we could attract families? And so we didn't know if it'd work, but we just said, let's do a big carnival in our building. Let's do it like a fall festival, but in our building. And we did it inside of our building. We put on this great carnival, this fall festival. We handed out a lot of literature and material about the church. And we also had a parenting seminar at the same time. Dr. Cliff Bennett came down and he did a parenting seminar for those 3 days during the carnival. All the parents went back to the seminar and learned about the Bible and what the Bible teaches about parenting, while the kids stayed and played with the different games, and they loved it. We had 850 people pass through that carnival during that time. It was fun, and we're planning that right now, another carnival this October. And then recently we had the medical campaign, and we had 1,240 patients pass through this campaign. Dr. Jason McCown spoke, he's pictured here, he spoke at Polishing the Pulpit recently on the analysis of medicine, miracles, and demons from the Bible, doctor's analysis, and we asked him to do that after the clinic. And one night, one evening, he finished the campaign like that. It was great. We had a great campaign, a lot of people interested, and we built up the church through that campaign as well. One of the important things with teams and organizations and family, just any kind of group that has some kind of community feel about it, is that you have to have care. You have to have maintenance. You can't just continue and kind of go on, or you'll begin to dwindle and you'll begin to infight among yourselves, and there'll be problems. And so we want to stay away from that kind of thing, and we invited a couple who live in Brazil. They're Americans who live there, but they're members of the church, and one of them's a counselor and the other's a psychologist. And they came down for a couple of days, and they talked to us and kind of treated our team and did a few things for us and kind of worked through some problems as well. 99% of the attention was with me, and the other 1% was with the rest of the team. No, it was mainly Matt Cook. No, it was everybody. But we had a good time with that, but that's important, and we're going to try to do that at least once a year, have somebody come in and work with the team. We had our first wedding March 29th, 2012, just recently. Two of our members, one of them's a new convert, Melchora, the bride there. She's been a member for a while. But two of our members were recently married, and it was really neat to be a part of that. It was our first wedding ceremony within our congregation, and it was a time of celebration and fellowship, and it was really exciting to see that. I officiated the wedding in Spanish, and I checked afterwards, and it's true, they were still married after I officiated the wedding ceremony in Spanish. So somehow we got through it, and it was difficult, but we got through it. But it was a great day, and it was really exciting. Right now I want to mention some biblical or some principles, some elements of a church that have to be a part of every church, like stewardship and worship and evangelism and discipleship, things like this. Hey, let me say a few things. These things are going to apply to any congregation anywhere. It could be Cusco, it could be Birmingham, it could be Belize, it could be anywhere. Wherever you're a part of the work of a church, this has to take place. And I should also mention that regardless of the attention that you give these areas, they're still going to exist. So you're always going to have stewardship. It could just be poor stewardship. You're always going to have discipleship. It could just be really, really poor discipleship. And so it's important to focus on these areas. Of course, like I mentioned, our mission is to mature a congregation, establish and mature a congregation. So let me mention these very quickly. Stewardship, and I'm going to mention some of the goals and the progress of those goals. At the end of last year, one of the great things I've learned from Roebuck is your Purpose Sunday. I really like that concept, that the congregation comes together and we decide what we're going to do for the next year. And we encourage each other to meet that goal and to plan that budget. And so we said, why not do that in Cusco with these new Christians? They can begin at the very beginning to learn what it means to be a good steward of what God gives us. And so we did that. We established a budget of 460 soles a week. And also, one thing we've done during our offering, our contribution, is that a good percentage, 70% of each weekly offering goes towards something physical, something that they can see, and also something that can improve the community. For example, in January and February, we gave $1,000 in our contribution towards buying the medicines for the medical campaign. And at the end of it, we could say, hey, the church here gave this much. Congratulations. Let's do more now. Let's learn that we can do more and more. And it was something physical that they could be encouraged about. Right now, we're giving towards an orphanage. Pretty soon, we're going to give towards buying Bibles to send to India. So we're trying to think globally as well. How can we help out people in other places? And these Peruvians are excited about it because it's something that they can see. Right now, our weekly average is over budget. What we've given this year is over. We're over budget. And so we're excited about that. Ministry. We try to teach that every member is a minister. Every member is a minister. It's not just that every minister is a member, but every member of the church is a minister. And so right now, all the Peruvians, or most of the members of the church, are directly involved in something. We have Peruvians who are ushers and greeters and counters, and they come early and set up the worship service and get the chairs and the cards all ready and the pencils and everything ready and the children's class ready and all that. And then we have others who, after the worship service, they follow up and they help us send out emails and handwritten notes to each visitor who came. And then we have others who help out with the follow-up, calling the people, setting up one-on-one Bible studies. And we have others who help out with the campaign and the seminars that I mentioned earlier. We have others who help lead in worship, prepare for the Lord's Supper. And so ministry is important. We're looking to improve this area right now. Evangelism, I mentioned a few things about evangelism. I mentioned the school of the Bible and also our big days. And so we had, again, a goal of 100. We had 115 recently. And we set up a lot of Bible studies because of that. And so there's a lot of things going on with evangelism right now as well. Discipleship. During the last year, we've added Bible classes and also a midweek Bible study in homes. And that's really important, we understand, for the growth and the health of the church, are these opportunities for discipleship. And then worship. Let me mention really quick worship. Numbers seem superficial, but I think leaders understand that numbers represent people and people represent souls. And so we're interested in numbers. If that's superficial, I'm sorry, but we're interested in numbers. In January and February, we had 60 in our average worship attendance. In February, following our big day, it jumped by 10 to 70, and this was average. And then following our medical campaign, it jumped 10 more to 80. I got an email from my teammate Matt recently, and he did the numbers, and he said, we're right at 80 for the month of March, average, for the 4 or 5 Sundays in the month of March. During the Easter service just last Sunday, we had 97. And so it's exciting. These numbers are growing, and we can kind of see it growing, going in the right direction. And also, we have a lot of one-on-one studies come through our worship services. My other teammate, Gary, he is kind of the evangelist on the team. He does the majority, not all, but the majority of the one-on-one studies, and he has on average about 30 one-on-one studies a week. And so they're in and out a lot of times, but 30 a week, and that's because of some of the systems we've set up with following up with the visitors there. I want to mention really quick how you can help, and then I'm going to talk about Mark chapter 4. All of you should have a handout. Do you have a handout? Okay, I didn't know if they were passed out. Some of you are holding them up. All right. So if you don't have a handout, you can raise your hand, and I'm sure one of the ushers can get you a handout. On there are some opportunities and how you can help, and you can just indicate in which area or all 3 areas. I'm not sure what you would like to do, but you can indicate your desire and how you can help. But let me begin by saying you're already helping on a weekly basis. You're helping, and thank you so much for your help and your participation in this work. Roebuck Parkway has been a huge asset to the work in Cusco, so thank you very much. We're very appreciative for your efforts in Cusco. But let me also say that October 11th through the 13th, we're going to have our second carnival. I mentioned that earlier. If that sounded like a neat idea, then you may be interested, and you may just indicate that on the handout. And you can give your handout to me after services. Don't give me all your handouts, But if you've marked something, you can give that to me after services with your email, and I'll be in touch with you afterwards. But let me say this about our campaigns. Our campaigns are set up to where you will be directly involved with the Peruvians, but you don't have to know Spanish. You don't have to know any Spanish. I may say hola, and you don't know what that means. That's fine. You're invited to come down. But also, you don't have to have a group. You don't have to get a group together from Roebuck to come down. You can come down and you can work with churches from Chase Park, from Estes, from Asheville Road, from Hoover, from Adamsville, from all these different congregations. We get them all together and we work together. And it's really neat. People really like that about the campaigns that we have in Cusco. And the missionaries do all the work. We do all the legwork. We don't pay for you to come down, but we do all the legwork so that you can come down and just jump on a plane and come down and get to work. And with this carnival, maybe a good opportunity. If you love kids, if you love working with kids, then you may indicate that box. It's not a commitment. You're just showing interest, and I can follow up with you later. Let's look at Mark chapter 4. I want to look at this passage together. If you'd like to open your Bible to Mark chapter 4. There's some obvious principles of evangelism. This is maybe my favorite parable because I have an interest in evangelism, and this is a really neat parable about evangelism. And I imagine, obviously, the people in the first century were living in a culture that was very agricultural. And so they were farmers and people who worked with their hands and worked in the land. And this was very applicable to their situation and their culture. And I think we can understand it as well, having a somewhat similar background. All of us know what goes on in a farm, and we know the work of a sower. So let's read the first 3 verses together. Again, he began to teach beside the sea, and a very large crowd gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat in it on the sea. And the whole crowd was beside the sea on the land. And he was teaching them many things in parables, and in his teaching he said to them, "Listen, a sower went out to sow." And so the first thing he says is, a sower went out to sow. What does a sower do? His job is to sow. It's pretty simple, right? Like a farmer farms, a sower sows. That's his main job. That's all he does. His main responsibility is to take seed and to lay it on the ground. A sower went out to sow. And so we see here the first principle in evangelism, and I want to talk about this for just a minute. We must pinpoint the best fields. In your handout, if you want to fill that in, you can fill in the words best fields. We must pinpoint the best fields. What's our responsibility as God's children? Is it to force the seed into the ground? Is it to stand over the same plot of ground and to make sure the seed goes in there and to let that consume us and spend all of our time? Our main responsibility is to just cast the seed out. And we're going to talk about this in a minute, but to put as much seed out there as we possibly can. And to find out where the best fields are. We use the word receptivity, don't we? And here's 3 ways we can identify receptivity. Usually people who are receptive are under tension, during transition, and in trouble. And so we know people like that. We can ask questions like, who am I currently reaching? Who is most like me? Who is most receptive? Who falls into one of those 3 categories? Let's continue in verse 4. And as he sowed, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured it. And so Jesus very quickly in this parable stops and says, but it's not that easy. You don't just sow and sow and sow, and then every single seed produces fruit. There's going to be some distractions. There's going to be some difficulties, some obstacles. And number 2 says, that's why we plant the maximum number of seeds possible. We're going to have to plant a lot of seeds, not just a few. We're not going to plant 10 seeds and see 10 crops bearing fruit. We're going to have to plant as much seed as we possibly can. And so we need to get as many seeds of invitation out into the community as we possibly can. That's why in Cusco we're using billboards and posters and flyers and radio announcements and newspaper announcements and campaigns in School of the Bible and all of these different modes, because different people react to different means of invitation. And so we have to think, how can we invest more in the community? Is it expensive, evangelism? It's very expensive. It's not just expensive because we have to purchase a plane ticket and travel internationally. Is it expensive in Birmingham to evangelize? It's very expensive. To put seeds of invitation out to the community, and what I mean by that is billboards and radio advertisements and posters and flyers. It's a fortune, I know, but it's an investment. How much money are we spending for local evangelism? I'm here to say thank you, and I sure don't want you to say, well, Barton's saying he's wanting less in what they're doing in Cusco and more here in Birmingham. I don't want that, but I'm just saying that it's an investment. It's expensive. It's going to cost money, and sometimes a lot of money to do evangelism, but it's important. Let's continue. We'll read verse 4 again, and then 5, 6, and 7. And as he sowed, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured it. Other seed fell on rocky ground where it did not have much soil, and immediately it sprang up, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. And other seeds, we'll get to verse 8 in just a minute. So we see here again that there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things coming in and taking the seed away. And so this is the third thing we need to remember, and the third, I think, principle that we learn here in this parable. Expect a proportional return. Expect a proportional return. What does this mean? It means in evangelism we're working with percentages. And it also means that if we want more crops, the farmer knows if he wants more produce, he's going to have to plant more seeds. Think of it this way, more specific illustration. In our big day in February, we're going to have 3 more. But in February, we passed out 4,000 flyers in 1 week. And afterwards, our attendance that one day doubled. Went from 60 to 115, so it almost doubled. And then it jumped up by 10 in our average worship attendance during the month of February. And then we had 2 baptisms following the big day. And so there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of questions about what we can do differently next time. And my main question was, if we passed out 4,000, what if we had passed out 5,000? Or what if we had passed out 10,000 or 20,000 flyers the week before? We would have gotten a huge response. We would have gotten more. Not just 60 more, but maybe if we had passed out 5,000, maybe 70 more. If we had passed out 10 or 20,000, maybe we would have gotten 200 more. Who knows? And so it's a proportional return. What can we do to get more seeds out there, maximum number of seeds, and then understand at the same time it's proportional. Friends and Family Day, if we're inviting just 10, maybe 1 will come. But if we invite 50 or 100, I don't have 100 friends, but probably you all do. If you invite 100 friends, then maybe you'll have 10 or 20 friends come to the Friends and Family Day. That's how it works. And so it's proportional. What can we do to invite more? Verse 8, and other seeds fell into good soil and produced grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30-fold and 60-fold and 100-fold. And so last of all, we see, wait for the coming harvest and prepare and plan for the future. And so with this parable, we also see that there's preparation involved. What are we doing right now to ensure that God will send us more in the future? Do we have capacity to receive more people? Do we have capacity to grow God's kingdom in the congregation here? I know in Cusco we had 80 seats. We had 100 seats. And so 80 people started coming. And we knew that was 80% of our seating capacity. And beyond 80, people were going to start coming and saying, oh, there's no seats. We'd say, oh, there's some up front. No thanks. I'll come another Sunday, maybe a little earlier. We did not want that situation, so we had to buy more seats. We bought 100 more seats. Now we have 200 seats. Hopefully one day we'll buy more seats. But we did not want anyone to be turned away because they did not have enough seats. And so what are we doing to prepare and plan for the future? How are we receiving the coming harvest? I want to end this evening by finishing the story about Miguel. Miguel was the third individual I mentioned earlier. Miguel came to the church. When he came, he was not in a good situation. He was one of those who fell into those 3 stages of receptivity. And so he had a lot of problems in his life, and he needed help. He had been a part of several organizations, self-help organizations. He struggles with alcoholic addiction. He's a recovering alcoholic. He had problems in his marriage. He had a lot of things going on in his life. And he went to a lot of places, but when he came to the church, he began to receive a kind of attention that was different. It was spiritual. It was something that was more fulfilling. And he developed a new outlook on life that he had not received earlier. And finally, he was baptized and became a member. And he understood what it was all about. Now, Miguel is on fire. And now he's very passionate. In fact, we're a little concerned about him, concerned about burnout, because he's going 90-0 in the right direction. And so there's a lot of things going on. Before I left to come here, the day before, I had a long list of things to do to be able to accomplish before I could get on the plane and come to the United States. And I was working through that list, not just packing a suitcase, but tying up all these loose ends. And I got a phone call from Miguel. And Miguel's a talker. He likes to talk. And I hate talking on the phone. But he called me, and I said, okay, I'll answer the phone. So I answered the phone, and Miguel said, hey, I got a great idea. I want to install a second phone line in the building to be able to talk to in the reception area. And I need you to do it today. I said, okay, Miguel, I'll do it today. He said, I know you don't have much time. I said, no, I'll do it today. And he said, I want to be able to do it because I want to be able to call people to follow up with them and set up one-on-one studies for Gary and Matt and possibly myself in the future. I said, that's great. I said, I'd be happy to do that. Because what that meant is that Miguel is growing as a Christian and great changes are happening in his life. And I want to talk about that at the end here. Great changes. I think that's what it takes in the life of a Christian. Not just in the beginning, but continual great changes along the Christian's walk. Are great changes happening in your life? That's how I want to end the message this evening, with that question. Are great changes happening in your life? This is a question for possibly the person, the regular visitor here who's been here for several years. Maybe you're waiting for the moment, just the right moment for the opportunity just to come and to be baptized. And the question is, are great changes happening in your life? Maybe not, because you've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and all it takes is just a decision, just to come down the aisle and to express your interest in baptism and to be baptized, become a member. Maybe it's a question for the new convert. I'm in a church of new converts right now, and I love it. It's really exciting, really interesting. You take so many things for granted when you grew up in the church, and then you get in a church with new converts, and there's so many new things happening. But I know this about new converts. They're unstable. They need stability. And in any moment, they're like the seed. They could be snatched up. And so they need to continue to make great changes. Or maybe it's a question for the majority of the people here this evening, the ones who have been in the church for decades, like myself. I grew up in the church, and so I know how that is as well. And I think we fall into the greatest danger of not seeing great changes in our lives. I think we fall sometimes in the category of lukewarm. We need to be careful of that. Are great changes happening in your life? If not, you can start tonight. You can start all over if you need to tonight. And you can be a part of the church once again, or you can be a part of the church for the first time tonight, this evening. And we invite you to come forward right now as we stand and as we sing.